What's going on, guys? It's your boy Lowkey303 coming back at y'all with another video, and today we have another project recap where I'm going to be talking about my latest EP, George Washington. Now, I decided to release George Washington because we had President's Day on Monday, and George Washington's birthday is on February 22nd. February 22nd was a big day for the hip-hop world. We had Kanye do his live performance of Donda 2. However, the other big event in hip-hop was me releasing the George Washington EP. So without further ado, let's just get right into the EP, and I'll start off by talking about the cover art. Now, for the cover art, I used the very famous painting of George Washington crossing the Delaware, and that's actually not what George Washington crossing the Delaware looked like. It was much darker than that, much less dramatic, and he definitely wasn't posing like that. However, for historical purposes and for painting purposes, that's how he was depicted. So all I did, of course, was impose my very famous Snapchat sticker over it, which has been used way too much. However, I do not plan on updating that sticker until 2023. So if there's any more projects this year where I need to do that, you guys are going to be seeing that face. But that is the most iconic painting of George Washington, so I figured it would be appropriate to use that for the cover art of the project. So let's get to talking about the songs. So I had to start off the project with talking about $1 bills. As we all know, George Washington is on the $1 bill. I don't really know how much I can say about this song. However, we do know that $1 bills are very beloved within strip clubs. That's what people love to throw. That's what, I think a lot of, parents and stuff like that $1 bills they love to give away to little kids just because it's just something that they can just all, throw all. It's just something that they can, throw all over the place. And I think that's why we still have $1 bills around, because they do have uses, which includes giving money to random people and throwing them at the strip club. And my favorite bar from $1 bills was, "Yeah, King George, how you like that, bitch? Oh, this is your land? Well, I took that shit." All of these songs are from the perspective of George Washington. So I think it's important that, for you guys to understand that I was basically pretending to be like George Washington if he was a SoundCloud rapper. So that's why I'm speaking in the first person about that. So next we have the Battle of Trenton. Now, the Battle of Trenton is what ensued after George Washington crossed the Delaware, hence the cover art which I used. So the Battle of Trenton, it's a very famous battle in the Revolutionary War. I'm not a historical expert or a war expert or a battle expert, but this battle was very important in helping the Americans win the war. And in this song, I talk a little bit about how Washington had to rally the troops. I said their feet looking purple like lean, because unfortunately, a lot of the American troops didn't have proper war attire. A lot of these people didn't have proper boots. So these people were just wrapping their feet with rags and marching, which is fucking insane. I could never imagine doing that. So shout out to them for fighting for our independence. But Washington had to ride up and down the lines of his troops to rally them, which is for me personally, I don't know how great of a motivating factor that would be to see a guy riding on his horse while my feet are fucking frozen and I'm wrapping them in rags, to see some 6-foot+ dude in boots riding on a horse being like, "Let's go, man, we have to win this battle." It's yeah, bro, can you provide us with some fucking boots? But the other problem of the battle was that because it was very damp at the time, it was making it difficult to fire their rifles and muskets. So a lot of the battle had to be fought with bayonets and up-close personal combat, which is something that doesn't always happen, but with the gun technology of the time, it was much more common. So the Battle of Trenton was an important battle in the war, and obviously what happened before the Battle of Trenton is where we got the very famous Crossing the Delaware painting. And my favorite lyric from the Battle of Trenton is, "We gotta smoke the ops like hickory." Last but not least, on the George Washington EP, we have the third track, Cherry Trees. So just a little preface about why cherry trees are important to George Washington. There is an ancient tale about Washington when he was a little boy that he chopped down one of his father's cherry trees. When his father approached him about it and asked him, Washington ended up telling the truth. And his father forgave him because he basically said, "Oh, telling the truth was so important. It's okay, son, I forgive you." I think Washington was really, really young. So the story makes sense, right? Because a lot of young kids would try to lie their way out of that, but Washington told the truth. However, that story is not even true. For the record, it's not. It was made up. I'm not exactly sure why it was made up. I think it was just to kind of show the honesty that George Washington had, and it was known throughout his life that he was that kind of honest person. However, that individual story about where he got that cherry tree reputation is not true. So that's just a little historical lesson for you, as I posted on my Snapchat. You can learn more from my rap music than your history class. My favorite lyric from Cherry Trees is, "My hair gray like the Jordans on my feet. I'm a Nike general, that means I'm elite." Obviously, there is a very famous pair of Jordans called the Cool Gray Jordans, and I'll just show a picture of them right here. This is a dream shoe of mine. I've never been able to get them. Don't know if I ever will. We'll see someday. And I'm a Nike general, that means I'm elite. Nike has the Nike Elite line, which is where I got that line from. And shout out to Nike Elite. They make the best socks in the world. So with all that being said, guys, that wraps up the George Washington EP. Big shout out to our first president, George Washington, for setting up the great country that we have today and the vision that he had. It's amazing what it's evolved into, and I just hope that we can keep building on that, and I hope that you learned something useful from this EP. With all that being said, it's Lowkey 303, your crush's favorite rapper. I got a lot more music to make this year, so I will see you guys soon.